Good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, happy Batik Day. So I wear batik because today is 2nd October. This is a National Day for Batiks. But today we will discuss about the future flights and I will share the materials. Oh. Okay, already. Can you see my presentation? Not yet, maybe.
Not yet, sir.
Okay, can you see the presentation? The PowerPoint presentation, can you see? Maybe we have to swap display. So our topic is future air transportation with the green concept. The subtitle is reducing negative impact of the air transportation. By the way, can you see my presentation?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Oh, I'm sorry. So, okay. Maybe slightly different with Zoom. And how about now? Can you see the presentation? No? Not yet?
Not yet, Pak.
Okay.
Sir, can you press the share content button in the Teams?
Oh yeah, I already sent the materials last week. But why I try to share, but no response. Yeah. I think this is because of the security issues in Mac. So I just upgrade the Mac OS, and I think there is some issues in security, and you know that Microsoft product is not quite compatible with Mac. So this is the privacy setting. I already give permission for Microsoft Teams. Why it should not happen? Before this, I already test and can share the presentation. Why today I cannot share the presentation? Okay, now I use the Microsoft applications and try to share my presentation. Can you see my presentations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, we will talk about the future air transportation with green concept. So this is the main strategy. First, we want to reduce the emissions. And the second, we want to conserve the energy, so we have to develop the technology that with less fuel consumption, or maybe also the another kind of energy. And also the third strategy is to recycle all of the waste and reduce the footprint in the production. Yeah, we will discuss about this. This is the future goals. You can see in the left. This is the technology from the past decades, maybe 50 years ago. So this is all of the air transportation system developed mostly based on the technology after the Second World War. Yeah. And then we have in the, I think, the current situations, we can use the satellite, for example, and also there is data communications already there to create a more robust and efficient communication system. But in the future, we will use another technology. For example, you can see the new type of the aircraft that maybe use the less energy using the most advanced aerodynamics design, for example. And also there is many kind of the communication system using small satellites, yeah? Microsatellites, such as Starlink that becomes controversial because want to launch thousands of about 40,000 microsatellites. But if the technology is available and cheap enough and green enough, maybe we can use for the next communication based on the satellite. So this is the emission reduction, noise reduction, and also fuel efficiency using advanced technology, alternative fuel. So we provide several kind of fuels. Energy management, when we use the energy, when we save the energy, and maybe we put another energy into back to the system. For example, the modern electric car, I think, and previously from Toyota Prius, I think. Then when we break the car, the system will conserve the energy using battery, and when we accelerate, we use the energy stored in the battery to give more power for traction for the. So that is the energy management. And also flight management, this is about the operations and also air traffic management. All of this technology, all of this system will contribute to saving and less energy consumption. And the third strategy, maybe we can build in the future the green airport that's very concerned about the environment, to protect the environment. And also waste reduction, minimizing, and also recycling all of the aircraft. You know that the age of the aircraft usually until 30 years. And because of the maintenance and overhaul, basically the aircraft is relatively new. For example, we can maintenance and overhaul the engine, for example. So we replace all the old components and we use the new components. But usually the main airframe, fuselage, for example, not replaced in the maintenance and overhaul. So usually become aging after 10 years. but still can be used until 30 years. Yeah. So I think in the future we will use another kind of the materials, for example, using carbon or carbon technology. So we have the composite, that we can have the less weight and also give a more strength compared to the aluminum. But I don't know about the recycling the product based on the carbon. Usually if we have the crack or damage in the carbon, we take all of the section and replace with the new ones. So there is no repairing. So the repair and the maintenance will be different. But I think that's the new material for the next generation of the air transportation. And also we want to minimizing the footprint from design and production phase until we scrap all of the aircraft. Okay, we talk about the future aircraft design. So you know that aviation has made steady and significant progress. This is about half of centuries, from 1950s until today, and there is 90% reduction in noise footprint. So become silence, more silence than previous jet airplane, for example, and also can save about 70% fuel improvement. So this will reduce the CO2 emissions. So that's a good achievement in the half of centuries. But because the air transportation becomes common and very popular, so the total of the flights and total of the flight times increase significantly, and still we have to consider about how to achieve more efficient system in aviation transportation. You know that air transportation or aircraft technology is the one of the most efficient modes of transportation, compared to the current existing car transportation, for example. But I think in the next decade, we will transform to electric car, and we will result more efficient and less emission system. Using electric car is not a good choice for air transportation. You know about the battery. Battery basically dead weight. You have to still carry the battery for all the flight times. When we use the fuel, the liquid fuel, maybe we have to bring a lot of liquid in the early phase of the flight, but when we cruise and by the time the system becomes more efficient because we bring less fuel. Not in case in when we use the electric aircraft, but maybe it doesn't matter for the car, for example, because they don't depend on the light of the weight of the car, for example, and maybe the battery powered maybe more appropriate for the train, because you know the train using rail system, usually the locomotive or the body of the train usually have to very weight. Yeah? The weight is very heavy because we use the traction based on the friction. Yeah. So electric powered battery system, I think more appropriate for the train and then car, and then less appropriate for the aircraft. But maybe in the future we can find another technology to store the energy into the battery with the more efficient battery technology. I hope. This is the today's the aircraft is the most efficient transportation. Yeah. You know, to bring you from Jakarta, for example, to Amsterdam, to Europe, only it's about 13,000 kilometers, I think. And Boeing 747 usually take about the 70 tons of the fuel, but compared to the distance and the time, the flight times is only several hours and not until 1 day. It's very efficient. So for per kilometers, the specific fuel consumption is very low. Yeah, that's the aircraft. Okay, you know, this is the sum of the equivalence, the emissions, for example, still less fuel and less emission in today's technology. We hope that this technology also will transfer to another modes, so we can save or less pollutant, yeah, comes from the transportation. And I think the electric car will be the main have main roles to reduce the CO2 in the future. Electric trains are assumed to have typical electrical generation factor mix. Oh, this one is predominantly electric power. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we already discussed about this technology solution on aircraft emissions. First, we have to improve, and I think why we call aerospace engineering, because aeronautics, the basic of aeronautics is aerodynamics. Yeah, if we have the better aerodynamics, then we need less structure, and then we can reduce the weight, and we need less power, so we need less fuel. So all of the another technology will be affected by the aerodynamics improvement. Yeah, and I think so one of the technological cutting edge, the state of the art of the technology in computational fluid dynamics comes from the aerospace engineering. Yeah, because it's very typical. One of your our alumni, when he worked in Japan, he used the aerodynamics. His job is to simulate the aerodynamics in the hard disk, computer hard disk. The older technology, computer hard disk using magnetic disk, and the rotation is about 6,000 RPM. And if you try to create several of the disks to increase the increase the storage of the hard disk, the memory storage of the hard disk. So there is some of the disk with the very thin space, and if we move the disk about 6,000 RPM, there is some of the turbulence between the disks. So the aerodynamics, his job is to simulate the effect of aerodynamics fluids in the space of the hard disk. So I think computational fluid dynamics, the advance of the technology comes from aerospace engineering, can be implemented to other purpose, other technology. Yeah, that's one of the implication of the aerodynamics improvement. And for car racing car, Formula One, for example, the improvement of the aerodynamics is very significant. For example, when in the 2000, I think there is a domination by the Ferrari in the car racing, and there is a new team, Brown, I think the name of the teams, and the lead of the designer is a aerodynamicist, and they introduce a new kind of the what's the name of the some such a stabilizer with the new design, and after that the Brown team can give the very high performance and can defeat the Ferrari. And that's there is some of the discussion about how to this is basically a competition, but there is some rules to prevent the advantage of the particular technology to influence the result. So because the truth of the competition is the driver, and also the engine, and also the construction. So, and so becomes a quite good discussion about the impact of the aerodynamics in the racing car. Yeah, that's the good story. Yeah, you can search in the 2000s, early 2000s, about the Tim Brown team. Yeah, the name of the lead is, I think, Tim Brown. Okay, that's advanced winglet, computational flight dynamics, and maybe you want to be the expert in the CFD, and I think it's a very good skill and opportunity if you have the knowledge in the CFD. Yeah. Okay, you already know about the blended wing body, and already implement in the drone and stealth fighter, yeah, such as bomber B1, I think, yeah, B2 or B1. So the stealth fighter usually using the delta wing and also the blended wing body design, but in the small scale. Yeah, but in the future maybe we have a large scale of the blended wing body as a commercial commercial aircraft. Airframe weight reduction usually comes from the new type of the materials, and also new structure design. For example, maybe you know about the generative structure design. That's another state of the art of the technology in structure design. So we only put the position of the load, and the computer will generate many alternatives of the structures that give the most benefit but the less cost. So to maximize the benefit and cost. So you know that maybe if you take the structure course, there's a generative design in the structure. And Airbus, for example, already used the new type of the design for to improve their design in the structure and reduce significantly the total weight because of the new structure. And if you know about the generative design, usually the result is most likely like a bio design. For example, you know that human structure, for example, we have the bones, we have the muscle, and you know that the bone, if we look in depth of the bones, there is some of the holes, and you know that the structure of the bones is not rigid, not a solid. And that's why the generative design usually only put the structure in the most efficient to distribute the load. So the result is becomes more likely the bio design. Yeah, that's very interesting if you want to do in the fields of the generative design. Yeah. For example, you know about the bamboo. Bamboo, there is a hole, hollow in the middle of the bamboo, but bamboo have the flexibility and the strength. So compared to the total of the weight and the materials, that's one of the idea of the bio design structure. And I think if you know about the butterfly or the dragonfly, you know that the structure of the wings is very efficient, and you know that the structure is not straightforward, but you know, just like heuristic. But that's the beyond nature to gain the strength with the less weight, and that's the main goal of the generative design technology. That's a very interesting. And also the older methods such as finite element methods, that's very popular in the design. The next is the propulsion technology. You know that thrust-specific fuel consumption is become lower and lower. It's very good. And also that high bypass ratio engine, and also the light materials, for example, using titanium and also another materials, and maybe also the ceramics, because we deal with some of the high temperature. But overall, the propulsion becomes efficient. And I think in the next future, because we use the electric engine, we can decompose one big engine into several smaller engines, and that's one of the new design in the aircraft design, using multi engines, very small but distribute along of the wings. Maybe you can see in the YouTube or the example of the future aircraft. So that's the advantage. We have several engines, smaller several engines, and we can only use part of all of the engine available. For example, when we take off, we use all of the engines, but when we cruise or maybe descend, we can turn off several engines and only use part of the engine available. So many ideas to improve the propulsion efficiency. The future development of aircraft engines, further increase of the pressure ratio of the compression system. This is usually for the jet engine. Higher temperature hot section, which reduce limited cooling requirement. This is about how to create, to increase the efficiency. If we can use the temperature, maximize the temperature, not too cool, then we can efficiently use the energy. Yeah. Why we need the higher temperature? You know that. Yeah. Because we use to create the jet engine. Jet engine basically the compression. So usually if we have the higher pressure, that means correlate to the higher temperature. Yeah. So if we can contain the higher pressure and temperature, then we can make efficient jet engine. Yeah. And improve all of the component efficiencies. Yeah, that's the future development of aircraft engine. Okay, you can ask something if you want to, and yeah, maybe some of you want to discuss something. It's okay to ask something. Okay. Oh, this is the example in the 787 Dreamliner. The goal is cleaner, quieter, and more efficient aircraft, and delivers 20% less in fuel. But this compared to the Boeing older version, yeah, 767. But it's okay, just to compare something. So this is the advantage of the new design, yeah. And also smaller noise footprint. Yeah, but I think I use this example because Boeing 787 is the first aircraft built on the composite primary structure. But yeah, this is there is an advantage, but also disadvantage. For example, the method to maintenance for inspections and to repair is very different. For example, if there is a small damage in a part of the section, then we have to remove all of the section and replace with the new one. Usually, the composite cannot be repaired. Yeah, and that's become a problem in the composite design, composite structure design. Okay, we take a look in future fuel. So this is the previous one is basically based on the design. Yeah. The new improvement in aerodynamics, improvement in structure, improvement in engine. Most of the technology comes from the design side and the production. But the fuel basically is we get from the nature. Yeah. And the idea is to use the fuel with energy density is with the high energy density, but with the more green environment, yeah, environment friendly, yeah. So this is we also discuss about the alcohols, methane, hydrogen. I think maybe there is a success story in hydrogen fuel flight and tested by the UK company from England. And in the future, we will use the hydrogen as the alternative and already tested. But it's also compete with another technology, for example, pure electric using battery-powered aircraft. but battery powered needs significant improvement in battery technology. But recently Tesla promised that in the next 2 years they have another kind, the new materials and a new design of the battery that will double the capacity and the performance of the current batteries. Okay, so there is another issues. When we use the petroleum-based fuel, we take from the earth, and this is usually is already contain or storage the CO2. But if we use the plant-based fuel, the theory, then the emission of the CO2 will be absorbed by the plant itself. So there is a cyclus, cyclus. That's the idea. But another issue is don't use the fertile soil to produce the fuel, because maybe we will compete with the production of the consumable plant, rice or another wheat and another kind of consumable plants. So the technology focus on how to use the plant that we can plant it on the non-fertile environments. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't compete with food or promote deforestation. That's the idea. So the technology want to use, for example, this is the non-fertile soil. How to use the and we can use a plant just as what's it called, Chotora or Jatropha is a kind of we call it jarak. Okay? Jarak. Jatropha is a kind of the plant that can be planted into the infertile environment. Another technology, maybe we will use soybean, but soybean is a food plant. So it's not ideal because we compete with the food. But we can use the oil from the soybean. So the technology focus on I think the algae and Jatropha. Yeah. And I think this is the future fuel that's very promising, because we know that there is a lot of sea. We can plant it in the sea, and I think Indonesia with the line of the shoreline is very big. I think this is the one of the technology we can consider, especially if we want to replace the coal, the energy from coal. We have coal. We are not rich in oil and gas, but we are the one of the big exporter of coal. But coal is very efficient in terms of the energy management, but a lot of the pollution emission. So another technology, maybe we can see the promising technology from the algae, algae, because the high energy content and energy yield per acre are very high, fast grow, and ability to grow in water of varying quality. And we can refine into biodiesel, gasoline also, and also jet fuel or ethanol. So many, it's I think it's very promising technology to use the algae for the future fuel. And oil yield very high, I think. So we have basically, Indonesia is a maritime country. We have a lot of water. So I think this is the one of the promising technology in the future, and we have to invest the knowledge and technology in this area, in this field. Yeah. That's some of the biofuel test flights. Virgin Atlantic using oil from coconut, and this is in the 2008, 2009 Continental using algae and jatropha. Yeah. This is Air New Zealand using jatropha. Why jatropha? Because jatropha can be planted in the infertile environment. Okay, but I bet in the algae, I think. Yeah, that's from the fuel materials. And another approach is increase the fuel conservation. We use less fuel because we can manage how to use the fuel. There is some of the research, the area when we can improve the efficiency to use the fuel, because the fuel cost impact usually is 30% of the total operating expense. You know that our transportation very dependent on the price of the fuel. When the price of the oil is high, usually the tickets become higher, and when low, usually become lower. So there is a high dependency to the fuel price. And usually there is a saving, normally only 3%, using various leverage. Yeah. Okay. You can see that in the upper part. This is a jet fuel and crude oil price. There is a high dependency. And this is the jet fuel price. And already cyclical, already up and down. Today maybe down because of the COVID, for example, but that's other issue. You know that the air transportation is most the safest, I think, the safest transportation today in the COVID because the air always fresh in the cabin, because the air is replaced in 2 until 3 minutes. That is the cyclus when to refresh the air. So I think the air transportation is the safest method. But maybe there is the passenger will be exposed to the COVID when in the airport. Because usually airport is crowded, and that's the increase. So usually someone has to wait 1 hour until 2 hours waiting in the airport. That's the exposure to the COVID itself. But in the cabins, the air always refreshed. So I think if you want to travel by air, you have to prepare for in the airport, not in the cabin. Yeah, but stay safe using masker. Okay, this is the flattery, thrust, drag, lift, weight. Yeah. You know that thrust is basically to against the drag, and lift against the weight. Yeah. So if we can reduce the drag and also create the more efficient lift or reduce the weight, so we can gain fuel saving. Yeah. Okay, that's the idea. Yeah, sometimes to reduce the drag using winglet. What's a YIP? High bypass engine. This is carbon fiber. This is the efficiency of the aerodynamics. That's the theory. And there is the phase of the flight. And if we consider to use the smaller but maybe multi engines, then we can use all of the power in the takeoff and climb, and only turn on several engine in the rest of the flight. So maybe we can increase the efficiency, because the fuel efficiency, influenced by the phase of the flight. You know that takeoff takes the consumption rate is the highest consumption rate, and then climb, and then cruise, and then we approach because we have to control the aircraft. Yeah, usually we try to balancing between the thrust power and also the gliding. Yeah. So in the approach, we take it increase the fuel consumption. So compare when we descend or in taxiing, when taxiing. So ini so this is the detail of the fuel consumptions. Yeah, for example, when take off until almost 18 kilograms per hour, but maybe the time is very short, only 1.5 minutes. Yeah. And still the cruise takes off the most part of the fuel consumption. Yeah. But when we want to save the fuel, we can consider about the phase of flights. Okay, this is the time. Yeah, that's why we design the aircraft, mostly the parameter based on the cruise condition, yeah. The altitude, the speed. Yeah, usually in the cruise phase, because maybe 95% of the time we use in cruise. Yeah. This is only for ground operations when we want to save the fuel. Yeah, we want to save the fuel, so we only turn on the several components when we already ready to fly. For example, prior to departure and after arrival, the APU is run because we want to start off the engine. Yeah. But when we already ready to take the flights, then we turn on the engine. And sometimes because the APU also need the fuel, sometimes you use ground power to support the aircraft. Usually for the two kind of the purpose. The first one is for electricity, and the second one for the pneumatic or pressure. That's a ground power. Yeah. For ECS, for example, for environmental control system, we need the pressure, and for the electronics, we need the electricity. So there is a ground power support. EPU usage during ground operation is generally managed by flight crew, ground crew, and the technical maintenance crew. So we can save the use of the EPU. Maybe we can save some of the fuel. Taxi out and departure. That's some of the problem when there is a congestion. It's better to wait in the ground, not in the air. So usually we avoid to holding, and we we postpone the flight because maybe in the destination there is several issues in congestion or maybe the weather. And the ETM, the air transportation management, usually air traffic management, recommend to wait in the ground. So sometimes there is a queuing in taxiway. Yeah. Fuel savings are possible during taxi out by taxiing from the gate towards departure runway on one engine only. Engine one arm times 3 minutes are required. Before that, usually engine warm up times of 3 to 5 minutes. Wait times. Delaying EPO start until 5 to 10 minutes before pushback also can save fuel. Yeah. So this is before pushback. Pushback is usually from the position in the parking area, and then there is a ground car that can push. Because usually we can retreat the aircraft, yeah, because usually aircrafts only move forward. Yeah, you can use the engine to retreat, but it takes more fuel. So basically, better to use pushback car. Yeah. Take off runway in the direction of flight is also a fuel saving. When you want to fly from Jakarta to Surabaya, then it's preferable to use the airstrip that towards to the east, not to the west, for example. And takeoff flight selection and acceleration altitude can also save fuel. Okay, taxi out, we can save the fuel. Dealing the APU, we can save the fuel. Take off the direction to the direction of the flights can also save the fuel, but usually depend on the direction of the wind. Take off flap selection and acceleration altitude can also save fuel. I think in today's technology, we can use the computer to automatically adjust the takeoff flap and also landing flap selection. Lower takeoff flap setting reduce drag on initial climb out, retracting takeoff flaps and accelerating quickly to climb speed at low altitudes also increase efficiency. Yeah, there is several research, and I'm saying continuing research in this field also can benefit to fuel saving. Fuel saving is the main topic, and you can take as the final assignment your script. Yeah, you can take the topics of the fuel saving using management approach, just like this. Takeoff flap selection. This is an example of takeoff flap selection, but it very depend on the design of the aircraft, because it's very critical. Very critical. So it depends on the aerodynamics, I think. Aerodynamics. When we have the very efficient aerodynamics, then we have the gain for takeoff flap selections. And you know, this is a fuel differential. When I don't know, maybe compare. Yeah, this is the same thing, I think. So maybe we can discuss later about this. And cruise altitude and speed selections also give the advantages or also disadvantage. Yeah, sometimes we can choose the flight levels, flight cruise levels, but sometimes we have to up and down because of there is regulations. Cruise altitude and speed selection can be optimized to decrease fuel consumptions. Usually, all of the aircraft design consider to use the best parameter, to put the best parameter based on this cruise altitude. Generally, higher cruise altitudes give more efficient and generally have smoother rides and are clear of weather. Yeah. Okay. Generally, the optimum altitude generally one of the yield the best fuel mileage. You know that the density of the air becomes lower in the high altitude, and there is a low drag, but also low of the lift. But after we take in the several altitude, there is just to maintain the flight levels. So the lift usually is only basically added sufficient lift to stay in the flight levels. But because we most of the time we use in the cruise altitude, the efficiency comes from the reduction of the drag. Reduction of the drag needs less power, and less power needs less fuel consumption. Cruise speeds are typically planned which minimize total cost via flying cost index, generally slightly 30% faster than max range cruise. Okay, which is the best fuel mileage cruising speed, but slower than long range cruise. Oh, that's the result of the research. Yeah. How to set up the cruise speed, so we can, yeah, fulfill the requirement. For example, flight hours, but with the efficient way. Yeah. Usually slightly 3% faster than the maximum range cruise. This is when we take the we can use the, yeah, I don't know how to set up this, but I think this is the sweet spot. What's the optimum speed? The optimum speed. And optimum speed, I think, is basically based on the design of the drag and the thrust. Drag and thrust. There is for example, when you drive a car, for example, usually the optimum speed is in 70 to 100 kilometer per hour, for example. If we use a very low speed, you waste some of the energy. But we use the very high speed, there is some limitation. In this case, if we use a very high speed, there is some limitation because near of the Mach 1, there is the rapidly increasing in the drag coefficient. You know, that's the barrier. So usually today's airplane is about the speed is about the, I think 0.95 or 9 of Mach, yeah. So slightly before Mach 1. So the Mach number is usually 0.9. Yeah. That's the cruise altitude and speed selection, and you know why? Because the cruise altitude usually we can get the less drag. Yeah. Higher altitude, less drag. And speed selection is basically because there is some of the limitation when we take the consideration of the Mach 1. So you have to slightly low. So this is the high subsonic aircraft usually in 0.8 to 0.9 Mach. Yeah. Oh, less than before. Normal cruise speed envelope, for example, CRZ 700 is only 0.74 and 0.78. Yeah, less than 0.8. Charbion and nominal weight. This is the case speed measure. This is the maximum range. This is the long range cruise. And this is the So we take the operating in the speed, larger impact overall percent mil age. This is specific air range. Mach number. Oh, this one. Oh, so take this one, the green one, not in the maximum of the speed, because I don't know why this research just like this. Because we want to faster flight, but there is some limitation. If you going faster, then there is an increasing in the drag. Yeah. So this is a sweet spot in the 0.75. And also another approach is to create some efficient path when descent and approach. Yeah. Because you cannot directly, and every time you want to landing, you can directly go to the landing strip. You have to wait. You have wait for clearance, and also sometimes there is the airways. Sometimes there is rules to there is a checkpoint. There is a checkpoint because the supporting radar usually there is a very high speed radar. Maybe in the early days only 60 RPM, but I think today is more rapid than one. So you have to check in the several checkpoints and cannot use the direct flight path to the landing strip. But today there is some research to create the most efficient path in the airways. Since cruise fuel is optimal fuel burn, flights are generally flown at the cruise altitude as long as possible until an idle thrust descent can be initiated. A descent initiated too early result in early levels off, which require more thrust at lower altitudes. Because you have to maintain the altitude level. So too early is not good, but yeah, too late is not good also. So there is a TOD, the top of descent. This is the initial point. And you know that steepest descent too early is you have to maintain and you use power here. But in the optimum, you can gliding, less fuel consumption to the destination airport. Airlines, OM, yeah, original equipment manufacturer, and ICAO work with ETC navigation service and SP providers to improve the descent profiles into major airports. Goal reducing noise, and also reducing the fuel burn during the descent and approach phase. That's the idea. Yeah. And landing, rollout, and taxi in. Fuel saving can be achieved by reducing drag and therefore requiring less thrust during the approach phase by using less than full flaps. You know, this is a flaring, but it takes, I think, experience, of the pilot. Yeah. So fuel saving can be achieved by reducing drag. So this is the similar to when take off. This is the optimum setting for the flaps. Flaps can utilize idle reverse thrust after touchdown to minimize fuel flow during rollout. Okay, this about how to break the aircraft, but not too slow, because after that we have to taxi. One engine cooldown times have been observed, generally 3 to 5 minutes. The aircraft can taxi in to the gate on one engine, using one engine. If you are generally not turned on after arrival, if sufficient ground electric air exists, still take the electricity from the engine. Yeah, there is usually two kind of the electricity generator. In engine there is one, so we usually have two electricity generator. We can use only from one engine. Other fuel saving opportunities, engine core washing 2 times per year. This is maintenance, I think. Less friction, I think, less friction, so the engine comes run smoothly and increase the fuel saving. Yeah, I think just like engine tune-up. Reducing fuel reserves toward regulatory minimum. This is the mandatory fuel for alternate airport. Yeah, basically usually only about 5 to 7%, I think. Yeah, so enough for alternate route. When the destination airport close, then you have the fuel reserves to go to another airport, yeah, as an alternative. Replacing older technology fleets with new tech, yeah, usually engines and also wings. Yeah. You know that engines against the drag, yeah, the thrust against the drag, and wings lift against the weight. So using the new technology, usually we can get new efficiency, yeah, more efficient technology, I think. EPU no start. This is a SOP, standard operating procedure for narrowly fleets. I think because maybe we can use battery when we don't use EPU. Yeah, because it's only narrow body and the electricity is not quite big. Maybe we can use a ground support, I think. But when we deal with the bigger airplane, usually the EPU is the generator of the electricity. So it's usually for narrow body flights. For the optimized flight planning system, this is about the flight path. We can optimize the flight paths. Usually when you take off in the right direction to the destination, and also in the cruise, en route, yeah, and also when you approach and descend. So that's give small incremental items add up to large benefit, about 3% of fuel expense. Why such low? No, because 30% of the operating cost comes from fuel. And if you imagine that many flights a year, then 3% is quite big. Yeah. Times to number of the flights, times to number of the total fuel used in the air transportation. Yeah, that's about how to save the fuel by flight management. And another approach is air traffic management. This is how to manage the airways. The airways. So air traffic management, air traffic improvements can benefit the environment by reducing inefficiencies in the current system. Usually current flight paths, departures and arrivals, which is not optimized for full efficiency. Using today's technology, using the information technology, we can use the computer to calculate the best possible scenario to dispatch the flights, when to dispatch, because in the real condition sometimes we have to wait the flights because there is some issues in the destination airport. For example, because of weathers. Maybe it's not wise to depart the aircraft Usually we wait for the clearance in the destination airport, and then based on that, with the predictions, we can depart. That will minimize the time when the aircraft want to land for landings. So we avoid to hold. There is a holding or loitering the aircraft in the destination airport. So that's air traffic improvements can benefit to the schedule or the flight plan. And another one to relieve the system congestion and delays. This is a similar case with the previous. The previous in the normal condition, there is a flight path, there is a schedule, and also relieving system congestion is about the dynamic situations. Because the increased congestion means more fuel burn, because we have to wait, holding, and manage the aircraft in the air. It's not wise. Okay. And then another one, integrating airplane and ETM capabilities. This is the basically flight plan management. So every airlines has the schedule. That's the flight plans. And because of the situation, because of weather, or I think, for example, VIP movement, such as president use the landing strip, for example, or military, there is a NOTAM, notice to airmen. There is some, you have to change the schedule. By integrating the airplane and the ETM capabilities, we can arrange the traffics in the to optimize it. So everybody get the savings, everybody get the most benefit from the air traffic management. Current aircraft capabilities not fully utilized for maximum efficiency. It is basically depend on the flight plans and the change in the situations. And ETM improvements could reduce emission by up to 12%, based on some research. It's very quite high. It's quite high. Cutting flight times by a minute per flight on a global basis will save 4.8 million tons of CO2 every year. That's very, very big, I think. Only cutting by a minute. Cutting by a minute. I remember when Steve Jobs, it's just another story. Steve Jobs, when create Macintosh, he encouraged his employee, his employee. If we can save only 1 second to in booting time, computer usually there is a booting time. If we only can save 1 second, but maybe 1 million people use the computer, we can save 1 million seconds. That's big enough. It's maybe not quite good comparison, but I think the idea is when you save something, but multiply by the huge numbers, that's the impact will very, very big. So just like this, a minute cutting flight, a minute per flight will save almost 5 million tons of CO2. That's very big number. This one is about the management in the descent and approach, like we discussed previously. ETM offers near-term gains in environmental performance because we have the optimized flight path. Industry are developing technology solutions that cut fuel burn and carbon dioxide emission, and example is tailored arrival. Yeah. I think Boeing and IBM, I think, has the research to use the IBM technology to arrange the flight path and also the queuing in the air yeah. For example, when there is a very busy airport, for example, in Heathrow in London, JFK in US, and also Soekarno-Hatta in Indonesia, there is usually there is a very busy hour, and if we can rearrange who can landing first and who can landing later, we arrange and create the queuing system, then all of the system will give the benefits and cut the fuel burn. Yeah. So that's the idea is the tailored arrival. Tailored arrival are continuous descent approach flown on data link. Yeah. So there is a information, continuous information. There is a 4D path, 3D in 3D dimensional, and the fourth one is the time. That are set for local constraint and time for matching traffic. So this is in this example there is three aircraft coming together, and because there is coordination with the data link, the computer can give the suggestion who will landing first and who will landing later. Yeah, and also about the path and also the runway they can choose. This is the parallel runway, such as in Soekarno-Hatta. So we can use one runway or two runway, all for landings. Sometimes one runway for landings, one runway for takeoff. Yeah, depend on the condition. That's why the information system with the update data is very crucial. Okay? Very crucial. That's the idea of the tailored arrivals. Efficient routing and improve airspace operations. Nah, there is some video. Maybe I will give you later the video. The Airbus create a research about such as a tunnel in the sky. For example, from US, from America, go to the Europe. In the Atlantic, over the Atlantic Ocean, they imagine there is some of the parallel airways. So each of the aircraft will take the one tunnel, so very parallel, laterally and vertically. There is parallel. So you can imagine there is some several tunnel, and they fly together. And after that, when they comes to the Europe, they can spread with different pathways. So this is about the efficient routing and improve airspace, because there is a rule. For example, when you go to east, usually we take in 30,000 feet, I think. But when we use the west, usually maybe in the 28,000, so 2,000 different feet. Yeah. So there is a airways. Yeah. I think you already know about this in the course of the navigation system, yeah, and also the efficient air transport system. That's phase of flight from surface, departure, en route. There is some efficiency because of the weather, the airways, different verticals, difference in the lateral, and difference in the longitudinal. Yeah, because there is some safety regulation about the position. In the future, maybe we can reduce the separation between the aircraft using technology such as automatic collision avoiding system. So that's the idea, I think, similar to the use of the next future of the which every car can aware about another car and basically automatically adjust the position in the safe distance. So I think in the future, when the traffic is jumping about maybe 2 times or 3 times, there is a less separation between the aircraft vertically or longitudinally and laterally. Yeah, and that's the efficient routing. And I think if you want to try to research about this, there is an opportunity to research about how to create the simulations to get the efficient routing and improve the airspace. And we can take the study case, for example, above the Jakarta, above the Soekarno-Hatta Airport, for example. Yeah, I think you get the idea. So we can manage, especially in the en route, en route, and also the arrivals. Okay, this is another technology. I think the key aircraft features for the RNP is about the. This is the path. This is the some of the technology to manage. This is a this one is about the tailored arrival. High throughput surface operation, data link, and ETM tools, air traffic management tools. EDSB, this is aircraft. That's one. This is broadcast from satellite, and also another. Yes, such as a terms. I think I want you to collect some of the terminology. Yeah. Okay, surface and departure, en route, domestic and cloud, oceanic and remote, en route transitional to arrive, travel and surface. Okay. Okay. Another issue, yeah, you can see that this is this is the operation. This is the operation in the ATM center. This is the goal for to low noise and minimum fuel departures. We use the 4D RNP. This is the technology Tyler of the PET, the PET, and data link to communicate real-time communications, and also ETM tools. There is a computer system to give the suggestion. High throughput in low visibility. I think this is a supporting system for pilot when there is a low visibility because of there is a, for example, there is a cloud or maybe a fog, and head-up display. This is a head-up display, the more convenient information system, and wake mitigations. I think wake ini it's about the turbulence. I think I don't know exactly about wake mitigation, but this is some of the concept that already developed to improve the efficiency of the aircraft operation, flight operations. And when the en route, this is a concept of flexible routing. Sometimes you have to change the route, but you can take the most efficient route. And also this is a 4D. 4D basically is three-dimensional, and the fourth is the times, data link and TN tools. Dynamic with the rerouting, that's very important. Yeah? That's very important because usually we take a lot long in the en route, so the weather is very important. Sometimes we have to avoid the such as cumulonimbus, for example, because when we deal with the cloud, you know that the cloud is similar to cumulonimbus. That means that there is a turbulence. Turbulence. So the cloud is becomes just as a bubble. But if the cloud is usually only thin, like a cirrus, usually there is a clear air and maybe only different speed in the air layer. But if we deal with the cumulonimbus, such as a bubble cloud, that's meaning that there is a turbulence. So dynamic weather routing, rerouting is very important. And detailing ETM tools is okay, I think similar to this one. And weather information in flight deck directly. Yeah. In the past, each aircraft, there is a weather radar, but weather radar is only for short range. Yeah. But we know that today's using satellite, the aircraft can receive the information via satellite, and there is a update weather information. Not really on the information from the air traffic control. So it's become efficient. Yeah. So update weather information. Weather information is very important in air transportation. Okay. High flow arrivals with continuous descent. Just like this is a technology for the RMP, data link ETM, and also ADSB. It's about the satellite communication system. High performance approach and landing using same technology. This is, I think GLS is a GPS landing system. Landing system based on the GPS. Sometimes based on the instrument landing system. Usually there is instrument in the ground, but GLS is usually using satellite. And also information comes from ADSB. That's a general idea that we can optimize for each of the phase of flight. There is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oceanic and remote is usually for long haul. For example, there is some rules to fly across the ocean, especially Pacific and Atlantic, because there is for safety reason. I think only big aircraft can across the ocean, such like Pacific and Atlantic. Usually, if the mid-size, there is a call of the, I think, ETOPS, yeah. Extended, ETOPS extended, what's that? If there is a rules, if you fly, you have to, you have to fly that you can reach the near shoreline in adequate time. So it's about 200 kilometer, I think, from shoreline. Yeah. So when there is something in trouble, you can emergency landing in the shoreline. Okay, this is the map. Currently, we in 2020, this is a map from 2005 until 2030. This is some of the technology that is developed. Contents of ETM automation, communication, navigation, and surveillance. For example, surveillance in the old past, we use primary and secondary radar. I think still relevant today because sometimes the data from satellite we can receive because of the weather. So I think most of the airports still use primary and secondary radar. Primary radar, usually we create the source of the radar. Secondary radar is to receive the back, the back of the radar signal. So there is a primary and secondary radar. And at ADSC, this is the system based on the satellite. And another one, ADSB. In ADSB, I think the aircraft broadcast the position. Broadcast the aircraft receive the information from satellite and also broadcast the position, and then satellite take the position of the aircraft and give the information to the ETC. Yeah, this is several technology, airborne CDTI, airborne spacing, ECAS, and ADSB. That's the navigation based on data, using data link. Not used by surveillance, not by radar, but based on the network using satellite. Navigation, this is about the management of the airways, from the airnav en route, and this is the RNB. RNB is about the what's the RNB? This is about the navigation system. Produce of 14 navigations. Okay. This is just idea. So basically, in the past we really on the radar, but in the future we really on the aircraft itself broadcast the positions, and the data link will broadcast the that information to all of the stakeholders. Just like your cellular phone. Your cellular phone basically is just like ADSB. For example, if you use Google Map with the internet connection, you basically report your position, broadcast your position, and then the Google server will pinpoint your location and distribute to another participant or another user. So using Waze or using Google Map, we can know the traffic density. We know that where is the traffic jam, where's the low traffic road. That's similar idea with ADSB, but ADSB in air transportation, and the system is, I think, the same complicated with the cellular phone. Communication, in the past we use the voice and depend on the radio frequency. Still used in today using HF, HF, a high frequency radio band. But in the future we depend on the data communication using voice over IP. But this requires more reliable system connection. But I think because the recent technology, we already in the 4th generation, the communication based on the VoIP is reliable enough. Just like we use Microsoft Teams or Zoom, this is the another kind of the communication based on the voice over IP. Okay, this is the, I think, still relevant and meet the requirement to the map in 2020. And the ATM is about the management using information technology as a support. In the old days, we use flight plan, and the ETC usually there is a strip. The flight plans, for example, if we want to go to from Jakarta to Singapore, then we give the telecommunication telex, and the ETC from the Singapore get the text, and there is a panel manually place the position and the time estimated arrival of the aircraft. So it's very manual. That's in the past, and the manual process and the judgment from the ETC, air traffic controller, is quite high and very demanding. So sometimes when there is a congestion, the workload become higher for the person in the ETC. But in the future, support the system will be replaced and supported with the computer system. So the system will give the suggestion to, for example, to improve the conflict resolution. Who can landing first? When who can landing? Sometimes who can take off? And what's the position? Where to hold your aircraft? So every kind of the traffic will be simulated and suggested by the computer and information system. That's why we need air-ground integration. So the aircraft will send the data real time and processed by the system in the ground. That's the idea is for ETM automation. You know that the keyword is the automation. Automate. So we reduce the workload of the ETC, and the ETC controller, air traffic control, only supervising the condition, supervise the conditions. The idea is this is a manual airspace design, and the future is dynamic performance-based airspace. Sometimes we have to reroute. Sometimes because of weather, we arrange the schedule, the separation, and so on. And today the technology is predefined performance. So we calculate first, we simulate first, and then we plan, and all of the aircraft will follow the plan. But in the future becomes more real-time decision, because this is a dynamic performance-based airspace. And this is airplane populations. It's about 90,000, and usually becomes double in 15 years. So I think in 2025 about 36,000. It's about twice of the in the early of 2000s. Okay, this is the air transportation system roadmap. We can get the idea where the future flights will be. Okay, and the next discussion about the footprint reductions. I ask you to 15 minutes more. Footprint reductions. Okay. Basically, the idea is to create a seamless interoperation. So less friction and less waste from supplier. Let's create the component. We can, for example, just-in-time productions means we can reduce the waste and energy for storage, for example. But it's not easy in the high-tech industry, just like this. But maybe some of the components, I think we can use the concept of just-in-time. when we need, we order, and just in time the component comes. I think the idea, we can take the example from Toyota. Toyota system is very famous in just-in-time operations. Yeah, I'll already visit one of the factory of Toyota in Nagoya, I think. Yeah. Nagoya, and it's very interesting to know about the just-in-time, because usually the components only we need the component, and for example we assemble the car, and there is a steer, for example, steer wheel, and then the steering wheel is at the right side on the left side, but the component comes from the system is matched with the need of the car in the right side or the left side, all based on the pre-planned production and optimized by computer. That's the just-in-time, very very sophisticated system, I think. And also there's operations, monitoring waste, energy use, emission, water use. This is water use. I think we will consider about this, because industry usually needs a lot of water. Yeah. In service, there is less emission, noise, and fuel use. And also end of service. This one usually we didn't give a notice with the end of service. For resale, materials recovery, we take some of the materials, or recycle all the materials we build as the new raw materials. Yeah. Okay. That's the idea, lining supply chain. So we can have the seamless operation, less time, less energy. And the basic idea is collaborations. Several companies work together to create the integrated system. Usually using the enhanced communication with supplier. For example, I need something, I just input to my terminal computer, and then my supplier real time know about our needs, and also fulfill our needs by sending the components, for example. So enhance communication with suppliers. Imagine just like Amazon.com. Amazon.com handling millions transactions a day, and there is a supplier, storage, delivery, and also complaint handling. That's all of the integrated system. Because of that, Amazon can give the reduce costs, and that's why Amazon, Alibaba becomes popular, because the production is very efficient. Identify areas of common interest, select project and partners, evaluate and share results. This is the some to-dos in collaborations. And also engagement, basically the supplier, we engage with the customer and also supplier, analyze the problem and solve problem together. For example, in this analyze the supply base, enhance procurement process, define enhanced requirement, apply selection criteria, assess supplier performance. Basically, this is how to engage the customer and the supplier to develop the system that solve the common problem. Just like this. Yeah, collaboration and engagement. Lean system. Lean popularized by Toyota, I think. Lean system. Lean is a natural ally of the environment. This slide takes from the Boeing, and Boeing also implement the Lean system. Yeah, I think Lean system is adopted from Toyota to all of the big companies. In example, Boeing 737 airplane program can reduce hazard waste up to 23%. Reduce the, I think this is the area for assembly. Reduce in factory size, and also this is very interesting. Half, yeah, more than 50% reduction in power consumption. I think it reflects the more efficient assembly system. Yeah. This is the end of service when the aircraft is not used anymore. End of service is not end of use. That's the jargon from the one of the alliance, I think. Safe and environmentally responsible management of what's aging aircraft fleet is our goal. Yeah, this is, I think in US there is some of the sort that we can place all the aging aircraft before we scrap. I think in Nevada or something. Yeah. So after that, in the old days, usually we take all of the electronics part. For example, we can take the chopper and maybe some coals of yeah. And also, you know that in the old days, the materials from the airframe is usually from aluminum, and aluminum is 100% recyclable. Yeah. So usually, this is how to scrap the aging aircraft. Yeah. Safe and economical return of aircraft engine and parts to revenue service. How to, yeah, maybe repair or maintenance, or maybe the idea is how to create money from the aging aircraft and spare parts. Safe return or reclaim material back into commercial manufacturing. This is recycled to raw materials and back to produce a new aircraft. Yeah. So this is the aging aircraft, and sometimes we can resell the aircraft. Sometimes we have to scrap, and after that we can using the aircraft to operate again, or we recycle the aircraft. Aircraft Fleet Recycling Association. This is the organization for aircraft fleet recycling. Member organizations have recycled more than 6,000 commercial aircraft, recycled more than 1,000 military aircraft, and remarketed. Remarketed is very interesting. Remarketed approximately 2,000 airplanes. How about the aging aircraft? Yeah, that's I think some of the parts when we overhaul and maintenance become relatively new again. So don't worry about that. But some parts usually is must be replaced by the new one. Yeah, and basically the airframes, the age of airframes aircraft can be used until 30 years. Promoting recycling is a priority. This is the 64% of generated waste is recycled. For example, metals, paper, plastic, wood, and there is a solid waste. Garbage. Yeah, maybe for the aircraft, usually all the part of the basically metal can be recycled, and I think usually chemical is not quite easy to recycle the chemical. Usually we can recycle the metals, paper, plastic, woods, and asphalt, for example. But when we deal with the chemical, not easy to recycle. Yeah. Recycling is part of agriculture, moving lands, conserve energy, pursuing national commodities. This is for the AFRA member. Yeah. leading for the first community organic cycle program. So you know that we know that there is a organization that promote to recycle, resell, and also manage the aging aircraft. Okay, thank you for your attention. Any questions? This is clear. Okay. And how to go back to the Microsoft team? Oh, this one. This one. Okay. Yeah. Any questions? And I asked Mr. Mahardi that next week we will join the guest lecture by Joko Anwar, I think. You know him well as a director of the films. Not, but this one of our alumni that take the different path. Okay, ya. Oke.
Pak, tanya Pak.
Oke.
Untuk kelas minggu depan jadinya jam 7 atau jam 9 Pak? Oh gitu.
Yeah, I think if we join the Joko Anwar lecture, then we will join the Pak Mahdi class. Pak Mahdi will give the link, and I think you can join the presentation. It's enough for me because the goal, the outcomes is you have the awareness about the environmental. You have the capability to research and to do some actions for the environmental issues. Yeah, it's okay.
Baik Pak.